Against the Broncos.
Usually find it, and I was like, yeah, anyway, what happens is BP, whenever SNAS, 5, 6, 10 seconds, circulate 8, 7, whatever those 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for joining us for the Grand Prairie City Council meeting for Monday, November 29th. I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in singing O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. We'd like to thank Mr. David Bray for the audio, and we'd like to thank the National Film Board of Canada for the video of our beautiful country. So we'll start the meeting with the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. Is there somebody who'd care to make that motion? Thank you. Councillor O'Toole.
I make a recommendation to adopt the previous meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. We have that motion. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. We have a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Rice.
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. We'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion does carry. Now is time for the delegation portion of our meeting. This is an opportunity for any resident to come and address council on any matter concerning city business. We did have a notice of a number of delegations today. We have, I believe, 5 people who would let us know ahead of time that they wish to make a presentation. So I would say to the delegations, please keep your presentations to approximately 5 minutes. We do have a number to get through, and we want to ensure everybody has equal opportunity to be heard, but we'd ask if you could please be respectful of council's time. We would appreciate it. The first person that is on our list is Mr. Wilson from Goodwill Employment. Is Mr. Wilson here today to speak to council? Okay. Well, you each got another minute then if Mr. Wilson isn't here to speak to council. The second on our list was Mr. Missick to speak to council. Ken? Please join us at the table and introduce yourself for the city clerk, and feel free to make your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and councillors of City Grand Prairie. I'd like to speak to bylaw C1139H, being the City Aquaterra Utilities bylaw amendment. Or I guess more specifically, I'd like to speak against the bylaw as it's being proposed. Yes, my name is Ken Missick, and I'm a resident taxpayer of the City of Grand Prairie. I have been, and probably always will be, an avid supporter of recycling, and I currently am a strong user of all the recycling facilities that are available to us within the city. I find that this current recycling program works very well for us, and I believe it's served the community well. Although I'm not opposed to the extension of the recycling program to include the curbside collection portion of it, I do have serious concerns with the doubling up both of the recycling programs for such an extended period of time, and the doubling up of the recycling fees that will go along with this. To date, I've attended 2 environmental committee meetings to express my concerns with the additional 439 fees that are being proposed for this curbside collection, and with limited impact and considerable frustration. At one of the meetings, I think it was the last one, there was a gentleman present who spoke in support of the 439 monthly fee. He said he couldn't see what the big deal was about 439 a month, and expressed that it represented to him 2 cups of coffee. Well, I don't own my own business. I don't work in the oil patch, and I don't work in the forestry industry. I work for an employer who's had to freeze my employment income for the current year and who was indicated to expect basically the same for the next 3 years. I can't remember the last time I had a cup of coffee. So yeah, I'll speak for myself, but I'm also going to speak for a lot of other individuals tonight. Since I first brought up my concerns to Environmental Committee, I've received a number of unsolicited telephone calls, emails at home from people who are basically saying, you know, we've been through the same process you've been through. We've written to the old council, or contacted the old council and councillors, or aldermen at the time, expressing our concerns. We got, you know, sort of warm fuzzy responses in terms of, well, we'll take it under consideration, we'll look at it further. They were all surprised to find out, yeah, the council unanimously approved to go ahead with this. And basically they've said to me, thank God somebody understands. Now can you make council understand? The documentation that I passed around today is not my own. It's actually one of the more recent contacts that I did receive from Pauline and Jerome Toker. And I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Toker is present with us in a room this evening. There are many people in this community who are either single retirees or retired couples trying to live on a pension income. There's single mom or single parent families trying to go on a single income. And there's even families where one or both of the parents are currently unemployed because of the current economic situation, whatever. And they're trying to live off their savings right at the moment. Many of these people don't live in apartments or condominiums or old age homes or senior centers or Rotary House. They're not in one of those facilities that we currently, or the bylaw is currently proposing to exempt from the 439 fee. They live in and they maintain their own residences where they cling on to their dignity for as long as is possible. So I'm also going to speak for these people tonight. Many of these people are having difficulty coming up with the $7.82 monthly fee that we're currently charging for existing, for the recycling fee, let alone a further 56% increase. I would say, hell, in many of these cases, these people can't even afford to buy the groceries and the other goods to create these items you want to pick up at their curbside. I just can't understand the rush to unnecessarily burden these people. So I'm going to speak for them as well tonight. My mother is one of these types of people. She's a retired, single retiree, worked at home for most of her life, so it's very limited pension income. And I saw what kind of agony and pain she went through when she had to make the decision to give up pretty much the sole social outlet that she had after my dad died. In her case, it was bowling. I saw firsthand the sadness and loss of dignity and quality of life that she experienced after she made that decision. And you want to know what caused her to make that decision? A lousy $5 a month increase in the city of St. Albert's monthly bus pass fee. So don't think for a minute that $4.39 doesn't make a difference, because it does make a difference. In some cases, a very profound, life-altering difference. So I get extremely frustrated trying to understand why we want to encumber these types of people any sooner than we absolutely have to. Certainly opting out of curbside recycling would be a terrible way to run the city. But so is providing duplicate services for the citizens of the community and expecting the community to pay for it. This is the message that I haven't seemed to have been able to get across at the Environmental Committee level when I suggested opted out. What I was really trying to point out is that by implementing this fee, you're not giving people an option. That is the issue. Income taxation, you can't avoid it, but at least you have the flexibility to organize your life around a way to minimize its impact upon you. Similarly with residential ownership, where you have costs like property taxes, utility costs. At the very least, in those situations, if you're struggling with the costs of things, you've at least got the option of downsizing to a smaller property to kind of lessen the impact, or you reduce your consumption, or whatever. But with just a flat monthly curbside fee or recycling fee being added, it doesn't matter what's the size of your residence, it doesn't matter how much you use the service, it's a flat monthly additional fee. There's just no way to reduce that impact even with prudent planning. So that's the point that I've been trying to drive home. I fully understand, as one of the environmental committee members put it, that we all pay for police, fire protection, and other services that we don't necessarily use. And we all gladly pay for these services in the sense of well-being and security that they provide. But the point I'm trying to stress is we pay for only one police service, one fire service, not two. And we already pay for a perfectly functional recycling service. I also understand that a reasonable recycling or a reasonable phase-in period will be required. But an entire year for phase-in period is just, to me, it's sheer silliness. Where I work, if it took us a year to transition every time we change systems, we wouldn't be in business very long. When we change systems, we tend to do our education a long time in advance so that everybody's well prepared for what's to come. And then when we cut over, we do it all at once. And we do so consciously, because it forces everybody to get on board immediately, because there's no fallback system anymore. What we found is that it in fact hastens the rate at which change is accepted and implemented. So at the very least, I would ask, would council not consider postponing the implementation date for this curbside curbside collection until April 1st of 2012? That would still allow for a reasonable 3-month phase-in period without encumbering the most disadvantaged in our community any sooner than absolutely necessary. I ask you, your worship and council members, both individually and collectively, is that too much to ask? I understand that there's been considerable expectation regarding curbside collection, although I'm still at a total loss to figure out where that expectation is coming from. When I see things like the full-page color ad that Aquaterra had out and I think it was the winter 2011 community collections brochure that came out to our door, and it says in it things like, watch for curbside recycling, coming soon. I really have to wonder just how much of this expectation is being self-generated for corporate purposes, or how much of it's for the good of the community. I certainly hope that this isn't just a slam dunk by Aquaterra, and that I'm just sitting here wasting my time tonight thinking that there's actually some input into this process. Maybe it's about time to do what's morally right for the most financially disadvantaged in our community, and not necessarily what's politically expedient. These people face the same increases in utilities, taxes, and other costs that we all do. It's just a matter of which of the straws breaks the camel's back. I guess what I'm saying is the Christmas season will soon be upon us, and you've got the opportunity of either being Santa Clauses or Grinches. Really doesn't matter what decision you make regarding the adoption of this bylaw amendment, you will be remembered this Christmas. How you will be remembered may vary depending upon how your decision goes. My frustration is the apparent lack of understanding about the composition of the residents of this community and their ability to meet the challenges of increasing costs, particularly when the costs are unnecessary and to a large extent avoidable. It wasn't my intent when I came here tonight to offend or embarrass anyone, including myself. So if I've done so, I do apologize, but I cannot apologize for being emotional about a proposal that I've seen for firsthand can have life-altering consequences. I realize that Grand Prairie, by a lot of measures, is an affluent society or an affluent community, but not everybody shares that affluence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Missick. Are there any questions for Mr. Missick? No? Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I just want to thank you, Ken, for coming out, because there's a lot of issues I didn't know about until I sat on the Environment Committee and you brought forward. So everything you brought forward I've been really thinking about quite a bit. And one of the biggest issues is duplication of services. And that's really keen, and I got a few more questions to ask about that as the night goes on. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor McLean. Is there anyone else that wishes to have any questions for Mr. Missick? No. Seeing none, thank you very much. I appreciate you availing yourself of this opportunity and the opportunities at the Environment Committee to speak to Council. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, next on our list was Mr. Dick, had asked to be recognized today to make a presentation. Just Mr. Dick, if you'd join us and introduce
Dick.
yourself.
I'm Margaret Dick, and this is Norman Dick. And we, in the last few years, have been involved with the environmental part of town. And we're here to thank the council. In the last Mayor Given, you and your councillors went down to Edmonton at the, what was it called, the AUMA convention. And you supported the provincial government initiative for an expert panel on renewable energy and conservation. And thank you very much. It passed. And I would like to thank those people that were on the previous council that also was working on this. This takes a long time. I have a great deal of sympathy for Mr. Wishart, a great deal of sympathy. I have been questioning Aquaterra for quite a few years now, and I find there's a lot of things there that I'm not quite in agreement with. So I really appreciate what he said today, and I could see it's very difficult. It's really hard, you know, to be, and to not be on council and come in front of you. You're all sitting there, you know, and you're all looking at us, and we're not used to this. And, well, so thanks very much, and thank you for listening to him. It was very good. I really appreciate what he had to say.
Thank you, Mayor Given and council members, to have this opportunity to talk about a couple issues I'm concerned about. I did attend the last Environment Committee meeting, and an Aquaterra representative was here, and I heard rumblings of they may not continue recycling glass. So I did a little research on that, and wondering why would we go backwards? Cullet is the name for broken down glass, and it has a lot of uses, but the primary thing I want to talk about is the energy saving component if they use cullet in the manufacturing of glass. Glass requires silica, limestone, and soda. If you bring in cullet into the mix, it lowers the melting temperature in the process. And the estimates are that you save 40% of energy. 40% of energy, of course, it also translates into CO2 emissions. I would suspect that Aquaterra wouldn't be thinking about moving out of glass recycling if natural gas prices had gone up like $11, $15 per gigajoule, which they were forecasting about 4 years ago. We know it will go up again. places in Europe, Germany, Britain, they all do recycled glass. It has to be segregated color-wise. There are a number of uses that glass cullet can be used for. Just briefly, for drainage aggregate, it's also very useful in filtering water. Cullet has a capacity to remove solids and improve turbidity of waste. It's used in hydroponic soils where it can be easily sterilized. It's used as a dual service as a warning marker in construction when they fill in trenches, because when they're digging over the cables or lines, they come to this cullet and they say, "Oh, we're getting close to the line." It's used in rock wool insulation. It's used in brick and paneling, manufacturing. It's 2 to 3 times stronger than just brick on its own concrete. And those are a few of the uses. So I hope that the council doesn't let Aquaterra get away with stopping the recycling glass. Another problem we have, as consumers, we all know where to get a can opener or a paper shredder or whatever. We go to the local hardware store. I've taken these things to the recycle center and I've told, well, that just goes to landfill. Well, I just don't think that's satisfactory in society. There's copper wire in here, metal, some reusable plastics. It apparently buggers up their system if they get that in Edmonton where they do the recycling. And I don't believe that we can afford this luxury of tossing this stuff in the garbage. You know, we are an educated, affluent society. We know how to get it. We should have figured out a way to get rid of it. So I would making a suggestion. If there were metal recycling bins located strategically, perhaps at lumber yards through the city, perhaps we could talk Grand Prairie Salvage or H&W Metals to put in a bin. They wouldn't have to be collected that often. That when we go to get our shopping, you know, another door closer or whatever it might be, take the darn stuff with us and dump it in there and get this stuff, this metal, back into the recycling system. It seems to me it's a progressive thing to do. So I'd encourage you in your deliberations with Aquaterra to consider that option so we increase recycling. I appreciate very much your time, Mayor Given and the council members. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. I'm glad those were just for demo purposes and they weren't going to throw at us. I was a little concerned when you brought them out of your bag. Were there any questions for Mr. or Mrs. Dick? Councillor Rice?
It's not a question, maybe. I just advise Mr. Dick that I sit on the Alberta Recycling Management Association board. The board's been very active in terms of encouraging the minister to expand the electronics recycling program. So if you're talking to your MLAs, you might want to give some support for that initiative.
I phoned my MLA 5 or 6 days ago. I still have yet to hear back on it, and I told them what the subject matter was. I also phoned Edmonton, the government line, and couldn't get. The same old problem was they haven't got any requirement to do this, and it buggers up the recycling machines. In brainstorming last night for this presentation, I thought, you know, we crush gravel. We have cone crushers for crushing gravel. Why couldn't a similar kind of machine be applied to recycling this? Throw those things around in there and crush the plastic off and get the copper and the metal out of it. Thank you very much.
Okay. I do see a couple of other questions or folks in the queue. So Councillor McLean? No, don't have to do anything. I got you set.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Given. Norm, Margaret, thank you for coming out. I was concerned about the glass too, getting rid of it when other communities are keeping it, where when there's no use for it, or we find a contamination or whatever. And the other question I had, because you might know this better than me, I watched a documentary on the radios, and is there a place in Alberta that will go through these? Because I find they put them in containers, send them to China, and then they're burning them off to get the copper and everything, and people are getting affected. Is there a proper place in Alberta or something that can take care of this? You know, radios, hair dryers, whatever, or is it going to container and go to China where they melt it all down and whatever?
I haven't done the research. I don't know the answer to that question. I know in electronics equipment, of course, you got gold and platinum, some of those nice elements that are worth something, so it's worthwhile.
Thanks, Ram.
There we go. It's my fault, yeah. one of our sons worked in plastic in the States, and he would have to locate a certain kind of plastic they would recycle it, like they extrude it. In the heat of extruding, it melts, and they would make another part. There are places, you know, it's just that we haven't made it. We haven't gone after it and done it. Like, all this stuff has got plastic too, eh? And it's all different kinds of plastic, but you have to separate. And until, of course, energy gets so expensive that we have to go mining the dump to get it out. And that's our problem, eh? Our problem here in North America is we've got too much room. We can dump it. In Europe, they have no room, and they do not have ore and the stuff we have here, the minerals. That's North America's. It's so wonderful. It has everything, and you know we treat it like garbage, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I see Councillor Wong.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Norm and Margaret, you've always been really good at providing, you know, just some additional information for us in terms of environmental initiatives. So I just wanted to maybe pose that question with glass recycling to you under a different set of parameters, because Aquaterra doesn't do any processing or manufacturing with the glass. Neither does Recycle Plus or anyone that we deal with. They simply collect it, and then they look for a market.
Yeah.
Right. So the market doesn't exist here. They ship it off to whoever's going to buy it. Obviously, in this market today, no one's going to buy glass. And even if they took it for free, it would cost you that freight to transport it. So you know, you'd end up losing money on that process, and that would force rates to increase because you know you're losing money collecting something. That's why it ends up in the landfill. So you don't have to answer today, but maybe just wrap your mind around, you know, what can we do, maybe even lobby another body, lobby another level of government to look for that solution for glass for us, because it's a real stumper. Like we have no idea what to do with it. I imagine in the near future all that's going to happen is it's just going to end up in landfill, and that just seems like such a shame.
Just in response to that, Councillor Wong, it's my understanding from the brief research I've done, they can use it in asphalt. It makes the asphalt more pliable so it doesn't crack. It can be used in brick manufacture. Maybe there isn't a brick manufacturer here, I don't know, cement manufacturer. They can use it, I think, Aquaterra mentioned that they can use it in backfilling, you know, right over the cables and the pipes. As this, as I mentioned earlier, it provides when they're excavating, and that gives that advance warning that we're getting close to our pipe or our wires, whatever it is. So there is some local usage. You wouldn't have to ship it all out. And it isn't going to degrade. That's the wonderful thing about glass, Colin. It does not deteriorate, ever.
Well, thanks very much, Norm.
Yeah.
Okay, I see one more in the queue here, Councillor Crokin.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Hi, Norm.
Hello.
I had the opportunity to go to the recycling plant in Airdrie, and it's not a very high-tech operation that they break items like that down. It's a huge drive shaft with 7/8 chain on it, about that long, and it spins around rather rapidly and sure makes powder out of everything. So I think it may be, I'm sure the government has a will that they want to do it. Nobody wants to throw that in the landfill, like, you know, it'll be there for hundreds of years. But I think it's trying to get a vendor to do that and find a market for the end product. Other than, you know, you are paying right now a deposit on your tires and televisions and so on. But I think we just have to keep urging the government to find vendors to take that, like across the province.
Would you consider investigating with H&W Metals and GP Salvage? Maybe they'd come in, if it have a bin located at, say, all the hardware stores. Let's get started.
I think it'd be a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else in the queue waiting to ask a question. Thanks very much for making your presentation tonight. And we had, I think, two more presentations. Mr. Andreef?
Good evening. My name is Walter Andreef. I'm a resident of Grand Prairie, and over the last 2 years, I've had the pleasure, with the city's support, to be leading Earth Day. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Given, members of council, and administration for helping me come here to talk today, because I want to speak in support of the curbside recycling program. I'm going to kind of reiterate some things that I mentioned at the Environment Committee meeting, and maybe add a few more points just from some of the comments I've heard over the last couple of speakers. First of all, I think the 439 cost is not an undue burden on the majority of city residents who own homes. I do believe that you know, with all due respect to the speakers, and I do recognize that maybe some may have financial burdens with the additional costs, that I don't see in terms of the taxes that we are paying as residents, that this is really a lot of money that we're talking about. So I think for $4.39, you know, cost of a cup of coffee, as people have been telling me. So I don't have a problem with that as a city resident. And I'll tell you why I gain for paying that. Every 2 weeks, I take my recyclables out to the bins, and I spend about an hour, sometimes depending on the traffic, maybe even a little bit more. And so what this means is that instead of driving off to the bins and then spending my time sorting all of that material and putting them in the bins, it's coming right to my door. That's going to allow me more time to spend with my family. My daughter is 6 years old, and I treasure every moment that I have with her. And actually, and often we will actually go to the recycle or to the bottle depot just to show her where things are going in terms of where all of our garbage is going, as part of the sort of the green message that I'm trying to impart to her. I want to thank Mr. Missick and Mr. Curtis for their perspective. And certainly I want to point to two of the graphs that at least Mr. Cook had sent around for council's review. And one of them, which clearly shows that here in Grand Prairie, that we are in the midst of a transformation in moving forward in positive initiatives with handling our recyclables and our garbage. If you look at the period between 1999 and 2009, you'll see that the recyclables have increased from 2,500 metric tons to roughly around 7,000. So that's an almost 300% increase. It shows that the amount of work that we're taking as a city to sort of manage our garbage and ensure that we recycle better. As a matter of fact, I've got some good information that suggests that we're doing, due to the work of previous councils, that we're continuing to reach some very good records here in the city with respect to recycling on average. We're way above average on the Alberta amount of garbage that's thrown away. Here in Grand Prairie, we actually throw away, we recycle more than most people do on average in Alberta. The last point I want to kind of get to is that I have full confidence in the people who work for Aquaterra and the people on the Environment Committee. I do know that maybe today we may not have a market for glass, but I know that sooner or later we will find one, because we have some of the best people working in both the city administration, yourselves, councillors, and Mr. Mayor, as well as those at Aquaterra who are trying to do this job with a breadth of passion and a spirit of professionalism in trying to address this common municipal problem, because it's not just Grand Prairie that has these issues. As a result of that, I think over the last 2 years, you've seen that we have been, I believe per capita, one of the cities that have recycled most of their electronic waste. If you go back 10 years, electronic waste wasn't even looked at. So these markets are continuing to adjust to new business realities, and that reality is that we need to manage our landfills. We need to ensure we keep them around for a long time. That means that more recyclables have to go back into into the consumer and into the stream and get them out of the waste and out of our landfills, because they're very expensive, these landfills. So I think on that point, I think I'll probably leave off. And one last thing I wanted to mention. The Restore. The Restore facility is a facility I go to buy somebody's discards, lumber, construction materials. I built a stair for my daughter here this past summer. That organization, which is also part of Habitat for Humanity, has created 3.5 jobs, and they've taken over, I think, roughly around 300,000 pounds of materials since they opened in 2009. So, you know, we've done a great job here in trying to manage the business side of recycling. It's created jobs. It's allowed people like myself to use other materials to do things for my children, as well as spend. And I'm hoping with the moving ahead of the curbside recycling program, that I'll have even more time to spend with my daughter. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andreef. I would ask council if there are any questions for Mr. Andreef or comments. Seeing none, thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
presentation today. Okay, and we had one final presenter on the list, and that was Mr. Johnson from Aquaterra Utilities. Mr. Johnson?
Good evening.
Welcome.
I don't have a formal presentation. I just thought I would come and answer questions on the bylaw amendment or on curbside recycling in general. My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Aquaterra Utilities, and recycling and solid waste are under my responsibility.
Okay, so Mr. Johnson's here to answer any questions that council members may have in advance of the discussion on the bylaw. Were there any questions for Mr. Johnson? I see a couple in the queue, and so Councillor McLean, I believe you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I got a few questions, Jeff, and a couple of them got to do with the process, how it was come about, and we're going to have a system in place already. We're going to be bringing a new system in before that's done. And a lot of people worry, taxpayers, when it all comes down and where is the savings? Like, is there a report of feasibility? Might save $1 or $2 will come down instead of 11 or 12 we're paying. Is there anything been done on this for the taxpayers at all? I haven't had no paperwork in front of me that says we could have another $2 savings down the road by these bins being gone in the city or whatever. Nothing has been shown to me at this whatsoever. I just asking that question. I have one more after that.
Sure. We haven't reassessed the current process because we'll go through a public process to develop a multifamily recycling, and at that time we will reduce the charge accordingly. Now, we would come back again with another amendment so that there would be a single fee instead of duplicate fees. And again, that would be reduced from what the 2 fees would be now.
Okay, on that note, so there's nothing formalized yet on that.
No,
And the other one is, the system now, it says 7,000 metric tons over 10 years or every year or whatever it is,
Right.
that's been recovered from recyclables. By every household doing, what's the projections of that increasing? And we're only 20% as residents, 80% that's put in the dump is commercial. So we're hitting the smaller portion, but that's nice if it does go that way. But what would it increase from 7 metric tons or whatever per year to if we do every household recycling?
Sure. Well, I think we're predicting right off the get-go a 10 to 15% increase in recycling. And as the education program and as participation increases, of course, that'll rise over the next few years. I think it's taken some time for places like Nova Scotia to get to 50%. It's taken, over 10 years to get that. I mean, it's about educating and it's about getting efficient processes in place.
And the only other question, my last question is, we're hitting the residents at 20%. Okay, that's
Yes.
nice. But there's an 80% void here. And I'm on environmental committee. I haven't seen nothing in front how we can proceed and do more there. So residents pay up, but hey, we'll still fill at 80% like before. So that's all I got to say is that's the question.
Sure. Now, it's my understanding that the provincial government is looking at a commercial recycling, construction demolition legislation. That's going to be, it's been on the books for some time. I don't know when they're going to actually implement it, but it's one of the things that is coming for construction and demolition materials, which are likely one of our biggest components of that 80%. you know, of course, we will support those programs and work with the Home Builders Association, which we have, and other construction associations, so we can manage that program. Yep.
Okay, thanks very much. I see a couple of others. Councillor Crokin?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Hi, Jeff. The bid that we have for $4.39, was there other bids?
Yes, there was 2 submitted.
And Mr. Mayor, this was the cheaper of the 2, obviously?
Councillor.
Yes, it was, although our process is confidential. We didn't do an
Okay.
open process, so I can't speak to the costing.
A question, Mayor Given.
Councillor Crokin?
What numbers of plastics will you be receiving?
Under the current program, we received 1, 2, 4, and 5. This one will be all rigid plastics 1 to 7.
Okay, thank you. How long do you think our landfill would last at our present rate?
Currently, approximately 30 years. Now, I mean, there's many variables, obviously growth and booms aside, but under current tonnage is about 50,000 tons a year, around 30 years.
Mr. Mayor, what would the cost, say, of a new landfill site be, saying we'd have to go in, say, in 25 years?
Sure. Mr. Johnson, do you have an answer, approximate cost for a new landfill site, I think is the question?
I mean, you're looking at millions of dollars likely with the development for purchasing of the property and developing of the cells. You know, just to give you an example, we just did one small cell construction this year, and it was almost $2 million. So it'll be multi-millions of dollars, but that's really only a portion of the issues. You're dealing with the legislation and the legalities, which is in environmental approvals, which is one of the biggest challenges. Not to mention the cost of and the availability of land for this kind of facility.
So this will extend the life of our landfill and millions of dollars in savings if we can keep more of that out of the landfill.
Thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. I see a couple of others. Councillor Rice?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Certainly, Jeff, to follow up on Alderman Crokin's question, one of the problems I would assume we will have, no, I don't assume, I know we will have in siting a new landfill is, of course, the NIMBY factor. Not in my backyard, and we're going to go further and further out. We'll have to go further away from the city in terms of land availability, which will increase our operating costs because it'll increase the transportation costs. Is that a reasonable assumption?
It is, absolutely, and you know, it's further complicated with the fact that the county has a landfill in closer proximity to the city than we would ever locate a new one. And from a revenue and a financial sustainability, it's likely not viable.
Okay, and I want to follow up. I wasn't sure with Councillor McLean's question, and I'm not sure I followed your answer.
Sure.
All right, so right now, $7 a month,
$7.82.
$7.82. So another $4.39 coming on. That's where the duplication comes in.
Yes.
In 2012, what happens to the $12 I would now be paying?
So in between now and June, at the end of June 2012, we'll be doing a process where we'll be investigating multifamily recycling to replace the current depot system that we have. Obviously, because we would be dealing with the residential at a curbside basis. Upon the end of June 2012, we would have another process in place, and then the depots would be decommissioned, and then we would reassess the fees that we're charging. And instead of 2 fees equaling the $7.82 and $4.39, we would have a reduced charge, a single charge for the residential.
Okay, so am I understanding that curbside recycling is for residential?
Yes, it is.
It's important to keep the depots open because that will be the only access to recycling apartments and townhouses have?
That's right, until the end of June.
Okay, so then we need to come up with a system that somehow includes them in the process, and at that point, odds are the fees will be reduced.
Yes, they will.
Okay, and construction demolition waste, we've had I know numerous discussions with the construction association, and they're really wrestling with. One of the problems, I know they have dumpsters on site, construction sites, which people come in the middle of the night and fill up, and if they lock them, then they just throw their garbage beside them. Are these ongoing discussions, brainstorming for solutions with the construction industry?
Well, we've had I wouldn't say they're regular, but they are ongoing. And I think, from what I understand, the industry is waiting for the legislation to push this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Wong?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Mr. Johnson, now we had already discussed on October 4th, City Council passed a motion that basically accepted the intent to go ahead with the curbside recycling. So based on that information, if we were not to go ahead at this point, just a yes or no answer would be fine. Would there be legal consequences?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Would those still be the same consequences if we chose to delay the program for an extended period of time?
I mean, it would depend on what you're talking about for a delay. Realistically, at some point, we'd have to retender, and that process and the money and the resources that have been invested to date would be lost. And potentially, there may be some legal responsibilities that we would have to attend to as well.
Okay.
Right. But it really depended on what you're talking about, a delay.
Sure. Okay, just as a follow-up then, because, you know, after hearing the discussion and the sensitivity of some people to having a program with such a long overlap time, I was thinking about September 1st. You know, we had originally made a motion to move it July 1st, but there are difficulties with starting a program in the middle of summer. It would seem that September 1st would make sense, but is it, in terms of a launch date, how would that work?
Well, I've had discussions with the contractor about the July 1st date, and that's been okayed. As for starting, really all the work would be done prior to summer. Really, all the groundwork would be done prior to July 1st to get it rolling. And really, I'm not prepared to comment on the September 1st because I just don't have the answer at this point.
Okay, that's fair enough. My final question has to do with Schedule B of the bylaw.
Okay.
And it basically identified that residents would have to have their waste bins removed by 5 p.m. Now, since the residents are responsible for the cost of the bin should it be damaged anyway, is there any reason why it has to be 5 p.m. or could we move that date?
My understanding is that was not part of the bylaw amendment that was tabled at the Environment Committee.
No, it's still on Schedule B.
That wasn't the intent.
6.07.
Okay. But I can speak that.
Yeah, and well, in just a second, actually, we'll look to our Director of Intergovernmental Legislative Services. You get that right? Is that what it says on the front there? Jeanette?
Mayor Given, the 6.07 that is included in Schedule B is a section that has been in the bylaw since it was adopted back in 2004, and it is a very general section that talks about no material shall be situated within 3 meters of the collection point other than acceptable and collectible waste. All waste, solid waste and waste containers remaining at the collection point after 5 p.m. shall be promptly removed by the consumer. That section will be addressed at the next Environment Committee when additional amendments are brought forward that will address the cart system that Aquaterra has implemented. So there hasn't been no change to that section. It is the section that was in the bylaw since it was previously adopted. However, we will be bringing forward recommended changes to the next Environment Committee meeting.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Munro.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Most of my questions have been answered by this point. However, Jeff, maybe if you could just give us some information on film plastic. I understand that it will not be covered via the curbside recycling. Maybe if you could just enlighten us on that.
Sure. Along with the glass, the film plastic, which is plastic bags for the most part, are a contaminant for the single stream processor. And this is something we wrestled with, but under the current program, we wouldn't be collecting. That said, we would still be receiving those materials at our depot locations until the end of June. And with plastic bags, with the trend now with the retail outlets charging for them, they're also collecting them as well. So there are opportunities to recycle those at the stores that we shop at.
Okay, so come June 2012, though, will there be, do you anticipate any other kind of plan to start recycling them at that time, or?
Well, I think it's something that we need to look at. Again, without making any promises, I think that there's opportunity for us to collect them at the Eco Center potentially and look for a market at that point separately, outside of the curbside.
Thank you.
Okay, I see a few other folks in the queue, and so I'd ask council members at this point if they have questions about the bylaw or that Mr. Johnson can answer about curbside recycling. I'd ask council members to sort of keep it to that, especially if you've already had an opportunity. So I do see Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Thanks, Mayor Given. I had this question in queue before. You just mentioned that. I just wanted to ask Jeff if there is savings in municipal landfills and regional landfills. Do we have anything like that on our plan? We're in partners with the county and Sexsmith, and I'm sure we can get Wembley and something like to do the recycling as on regional.
Right. I sat on a task force that Recycle Plus was heading with Councillor Wong. We look at regional, like a regional processing facility, but ultimately, without all players on board, there's just not enough materials, I think, to support it. And Recycle Plus, at the time, their facility only can do certain materials in the dual stream, and really the up and coming process and what's industry standard is the single stream. I think in a perfect world we'd like to do that, and I think we still need to explore those relationships and those opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Jeff, this is a question I just want to ask you. Approximately how much glass does our landfill sites see in a year? Just in a ballpark figure.
I'd be honest, I don't have a figure off the top of my head.
So it would be not the bottle pop glass, not the whiskey glass. It'd be just like pickle jars and stuff like that, correct?
Right. So, and a lot of those deposit items do end up in our depots. Citizens of Grand Prairie have felt the need to take them from the depots, which is okay. But about over 80% of our glass is deposit materials that we generate.
Oh, right on. I found somebody at the AUMA convention that would be interested in maybe looking at doing something with glass. So,
and you know, we spend a lot of time researching that, and we welcome the opportunity to find a market. We haven't talked about it, but the biggest challenge with glass is contamination. Even in our glass bins, we found rubber swimming pools, we found animal parts. You know, that's just the way, and it's very difficult. Even with the colored glass and labels, it's been a real challenge. Not for us, and it's really an Alberta national global thing. So.
okay. Thanks very much, Jeff.
Okay. I see Councillor Rice in the queue.
Jeff, in conjunction with the curbside recycling, does Aquaterra have, I'll call it an education campaign? You talked about the plastic bags, yes. And plastic bags, I think, are less than 0.1% of what goes into the landfill. It's a very minute amount, but if you're looking at education through the merchants, that seems to be more effective than you know, looking for a market for something that small. Is that so? You're doing any education things?
At this point, we're not, because we don't have a direction. But once we do, absolutely, that's the biggest part of the transition that we would be faced with, would be the education for both, like you said, the retailers and for our customers. It's something that the more time we spend on it, the more successful our program will be.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Surprise, surprise. Mr. Johnson, if there are no other questions in the queue, thanks very much for your presentation today and answering some questions. Thank you. Okay, that was all the people that we had that had give us advance notice that they wanted to make a presentation today. Was there anybody else that wanted to make a presentation to council on any other matter? Okay, I don't see anyone. And so we would move on to our regular agenda, and we have no public hearings tonight. We do have one matter of unfinished business, and that's item 7.1 from our council committee, the whole budget discussions. There was one item that was overlooked as we went through our referral items, and Councillor Radbourne, I believe that was originally your motion, and so do you have any interest in following up with that?
Thank you, Mayor Given. No, I would like to withdraw that motion. As the process evolved, it's my understanding that this item was included in the budget, which I think is a significant investment in that community knowledge campus project and with our partners. So at this time, I'd like to withdraw that motion.
Okay, thank you very much. And so there's no need to vote on a motion to withdraw. It's just withdrawn. Thank you, and thanks for catching that oversight. And so we'll move on to item 8.1, reports, and we have an appointment to a new council member to a new committee. And so if I could have a motion on item 8.1, I see Councillor Rice.
I move that council appoint Councillor Dan Wong to the Peace Watershed Planning and Advisory Council Initiators Group. Ooh.
It is a good title. This is a new initiative that's being put forward by for the Peace Watershed, obviously, and Councillor Wong, with your work on the Wapiti Corridor Planning Society, I think it obviously is a good fit. So I would encourage council members to support my recommendation. Any discussion or questions on the recommendation? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Thank you very much, Councillor Wong, and congratulations. Thank you very much, Councillor Wong, for taking that on. On to committee business, item 9.1, Public Works Committee, and Councillor Wong, I believe that's you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move the council receive the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting held November 16th, 2010.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Carry on, please, Councillor Wong.
I move that council award tender T 57-433-10, Gateway Soccer Center Sports Field Development and Stormwater Management Project, phases 1, 2, and 3, in the amount of $329,143.50, excluding GST, to Canelson Rock Products Limited as the lowest bid meeting specifications. And in speaking to this, Mayor Given, I just wanted to clarify that we only are proceeding with phases 1, 2, and 3. This was a 4-phase project. Phase 4 was the trails and parking lot, which would have had the tender total $329,143.50. But because we are only proceeding with the first 3 phases, we're only spending $218,000, $218,150 actually, and that would keep it within our budget. The wording in the motion is only because that was the amount that was tendered, but it did give the options to phase it in.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Any discussion or comment on the motion? Councillor Crokin, I see you in the queue.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I just would like Councillor Wong to explain to the people watching why it is excluding GST.
It's because we get our GST back in the form of GST credits. Okay. Also, if I could continue just to explain the project itself, it is to create 5 soccer fields at J.C. Mackey Park, and 2 of those fields can be combined to make 1 official outdoor soccer field for adult play. So I think it's a really good project, and it's utilizing the space very efficiently.
Okay, thanks very much. Any further discussion or comments? I see Councillor Radbourne.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just to add, also it's a partnership with the Soccer Association. So I think that working together with that group and trying to accommodate their needs is an important part of this motion as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that vote does carry. Please carry on, Councillor Wong.
I move the council waive the fees, levies, and securities in the amount of $51,573.97 for the Prairie Art Gallery Restoration Project. And in speaking to that, Mayor Given, this is a common practice for the city. It's a city-owned building, and it doesn't make sense for us to charge ourselves the fees and then just shift it over from one budget item or one line item in the budget to another. So this is just a wash.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion, comments, or questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Councillor Wong, was there anything else from the Public Works Committee meeting that you wanted to highlight?
I think that was everything. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to General Government Services Committee meeting, and Councillor Rice, that's your committee. If you just ring in and queue, and then I'll turn it on for you there. There you are.
Thank you. I move that council receive the minutes of the General Government Services Committee meeting held November 17th.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Please carry on.
I move that council receive the unaudited financial statements and schedules for the 9-month period ended September 30th, 2010 for information. Speaking to the motion, we right now are projecting an operating surplus of $722,000 for the year ending December 31st, 2010.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion, questions, or comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you very much. And that motion carries. Councillor Rice, was there anything else from the
No,
GGS
I'd be
meeting?
pleased to answer questions.
Oh, any questions for Councillor Rice? And I see none. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice.
I would maybe point out, I would point out that one of the things we're going to be looking at doing is getting master plans posted on the city's website. The committee has directed administration to be working on that.
Thanks very much. And I believe the next one's yours as well, the 100th Anniversary Committee.
I move that council receive the minutes of the 100th Anniversary Committee meeting held November 17th, 2010. In speaking to the motion, we looked at getting more information on a history book. And the history book, the committee is leaning towards the direction of community builders. The history book will focus on the people that have played an instrumental role in building this community. And we're going to also be looking for legacy projects and also looking at a homecoming. So some exciting things. We're inviting a bunch of people to the next meeting, and we'll go forward from there.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or questions? I see Councillor Radburn. Actually, I'll maybe take the, we'll take the motion on the minutes first. We'll vote on that, and then we'll look for any questions, Councillor Radburn, if that's right. So we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that does carry. Councillor Radburn, still have your question? There you go.
I do. Thank you, Mayor Given. Helen, just the paragraph with respect to the potential legacy projects. This is just at this discussion is in its infancy, I'm assuming, because I certainly am very supportive of using any legacy monies to enhance Muskogee Park and choosing something from our master plan with respect to that as our legacy project. Are there others that are suggested, such as the converting the reservoir into recreation, being considered? What will be the process in terms of deciding?
Councillor Rice, you have to.
You do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
Absolutely. That's the committee is in, it's just had its first meeting. It's in its infancy in brainstorming. I believe the process will be that we will compile a list of 3 or 4 projects and bring it to council for discussion. A legacy is something that will last a long time, so it'll have to be something that all of council agrees and supports.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. If there was nothing else for the 100th Anniversary Committee meeting, then we'll move on to the Special Environment Committee meeting, and Councillor Munro, I believe that's yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a motion that council receive the minutes of the Special Environment Committee meeting held November 19th, 2010.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to receive the minutes. We'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a motion that council rescind the motion of October 4th, 2010, which reads, Council approve implementation of single-stream weekly collection, or blue bags, for residential curbside recycling effective March 1st, 2011. And just to briefly speak to that, is that because of the delays, the contractor is no longer able to meet that date. So in order for us to move forward, we would have to rescind this motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or debate or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Munro.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that council give bylaw C1139H, the city Aquaterra utility bylaw, to implement single-stream blue bag curbside recycling effective July 1st, 2011, 3 readings. First readings, pardon me, sorry.
Okay, thanks very much. So we have a motion for first reading, and there is no debate on a motion for first reading, so we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. So, Councillor Munro, if you can carry on for second reading, and then after second reading, we have an opportunity for debate and discussion.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I'm slowly catching on here. I'd like to recommend council give bylaw C1139H, the city Aquaterra utility bylaw, to implement single-stream blue bag curbside recycling effective July 1st, 2011, second reading.
Okay, thank you very much. So we had a motion for second reading, and now's an opportunity to open it up for discussion and debate, and I see a few people in the queue, and so Councillor McLean, I believe you're first up.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I want curbside recycling, but on this issue, and I looked at it and I read and I talked to a lot of residents, and they want curbside recycling. But the process wasn't open, and if we do certain things, it could be legal stuff, we could be sued. I don't like being put in that predicament. And the study of the savings, there's nothing been done how it could be reduced, and I don't like that as well, so I will be voting for curbside recycling not to go forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I see Councillor Wong.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I'm going to move an amendment to this motion. I move that the effective date, July 1st, 2011, be changed to September 1st, 2011. And I look to the mayor to see if that is, if that amendment is in order.
Yeah, I see that that amendment is in order. So please.
Good. Okay, so I'd like to speak to that motion, if I may. In recognition of the people who are sensitive to the duplication of costs, I think that moving this initiative a couple of months shouldn't jeopardize the city in terms of its position legally, although that is up for debate. But I also feel that there is a difficulty in starting any program in July. That's why most programs either start in the spring or start in the fall, because people are actually home. Starting in July, most people start taking off for holidays. So to really try to get a message out there or to really start something, you're not going to see that big increase that you would expect to. So for that reason, I think September 1st is a good date. It also does reduce that duplication time. It pushes back our original date approximately 6 months, and the duplication would only last for about 9 months then.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. I understand that we have maybe some more specific wording, and so we'll just make sure that we have your amendment properly here. So if we can just see that wording. So moved by Councillor Wong, Council amend bylaw C 1139H as follows. Schedule B, Section 24, by changing the date July 1st to September 21st, or excuse me, September 1st, and Schedule G, Section 14. So does that capture, the city clerk says that those are the areas that we would need to amend to make your motion effective, essentially? Those are the specific parts of the bylaw.
Sure, if that is if that makes it effective, that's exactly what I'll have then.
Well,
Yeah.
I trust that she knows her stuff, and that
Mhm.
looks a lot like what you said, so. Okay, so at this point then, we have discussion on the amendment, which is in order, and so I do see people in the queue, and so we'll be discussing the amendment to move to a September 1st implementation date. I see Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Bill Given. I'm going to vote against this amendment. I believe that we've waited a long time. This was something I ran for on my first election, and I believe a lot of people, although we have some very sensitive people in the audience, I believe this is something that a majority of the city wants. So I will be voting against the motion. I don't think that it'll be a little easier 2 months later in September, but in the overall picture, I think it'll be easier to do throughout the summer as opposed to winter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. So to the amendment, Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. On our contracted fee of $439, will we lose that? And it's a technical question, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't want to move back 2 months if we're going to lose. He may say, well, no, now I'm going to be $6. I'm just speaking, and I don't know.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. So I see Councillor Rice.
And I guess my question is very similar. In part of our USA with Aquaterra says that we can take increases and we can either do them as use or pay increases or general benefit. So if we delay this 3 months, does that mean then it starts coming out of general benefit?
Well, actually, I will speak to that. No, I don't believe this is a similar situation to the water rates that you're speaking about, Councillor Rice.
Okay.
This is one where the City of Grand Prairie is choosing whether or not to accept the service, and it's really the city that's driving this. It's not Aquaterra that's asking to have blue bag or curbside recycling implemented. That direction has really come from the City of Grand Prairie. So it's either we're offering the service or we're not, and we're talking about the different dates, and certainly can't speak to what the cost would be after the proposed dates where the contractor said that they could offer the service. But,
okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would definitely support this motion as well. I think that if we could gain a couple more months of reduced cost and expense, I think that it would go a long ways. I think that if we can take advantage of any kind of cost savings, I think it would be appropriate to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I see Councillor O'Toole.
I'm going to vote against it. I don't think the contractor will probably do this, and I've been having countless number of emails and phone calls and discussions with people on the street, and they want it to start, and they want it to start soon. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I don't see anyone else in the queue to speak to the amendment. I would see Councillor Wong with the last opportunity to wrap up if he wishes. Councillor Wong?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. I believe that it's very unlikely that the contractor would put this contract at risk over 2 months. It really wouldn't make sense. And I do believe that although I'm ready to get curbside recycling started tomorrow, if we could have it tomorrow, I believe that there is sensitivity out there in the public over the duplication of costs. And I wouldn't have it delayed any further than September 1st, but I believe September 1st is probably the best time to even start a program because, like I said, in the summer, you'll find that most businesses don't launch big programs because it falls on a lot of deaf ears. September 1st is the time when everyone's back to school, everyone's back to work, everyone's raring to go. You can get a message out there that curbside recycling is happening now, and you'll have a bigger impact.
Okay, thanks very much. And so we'll close debate on the amendment. And so we're voting on whether to amend essentially to September 1st implementation date or the from the original July 1st implementation date that was proposed in the motion. So I'll call for the vote. Thank you very much. And that motion does carry. So we'll move on to voting on the amended motion, and we'll call for debate or discussion on the motion as amended. And I see Councillor Rice in the queue.
I guess I and I'm going to try to be coherent here. I'm going to express extreme resentment over what Alderman McLean said, or Councillor McLean said. As a member of the past council, as a member of the Aquaterra board, you know, please don't assume that either of those two bodies made this decision lightly or at one meeting. There is plenty of research out there. There was plenty of backup material. Certainly you could have asked me or anyone from Aquaterra for the information and the background and the projections prior to going forward with this. Decision was not made lightly, it was not made frivolously, and to suggest that that information was not out there and not available, I believe to be insulting.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. I see Councillor McLean in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Didn't mean to insult anybody. I just want an open and transparent process. And I believe with the suing issue under camera, it quite wasn't. So that's my decision on that, and I'll go with that.
Thanks very much. I see Councillor Gustafson in the queue.
Thank you. I am going.
You're on.
Thank you, Mayor Bill Given. I am going to vote in favor of this motion. As I said before, it's been a long time coming. I would love to see it here tomorrow. I believe people are going to save money because they're not going to have to fire up their vehicles in the middle of winter and drive them all the way down to the corner. Also, the corner depots are, you know, they're not very appealing with all that, you know, debris and litter scattered amongst the, you know, usually not that parking lot, but the one downwind from it. So I'm definitely going to vote in favor of this motion and encourage the rest of council to do the same and enjoy recycling at your home, in your yard, on the way to the curb. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I see Councillor Wong in the queue.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I also am going to speak in favor of this motion. I believe that our depot system is pretty much maxed out. We have the highest participation in a depot recycling system across Alberta. And since it is at a plateaued level now, the only way to increase recycling significantly is to go to that next step, and that next step is curbside recycling. It's going to increase participation. Now, I heard a lot of mixed support in the community, but the majority of people that talked to me were in favor of curbside recycling, mainly because it did save them the time of having to drive out to the recycling depots. And also, one of the things that always has been a part of my mind is the big picture. If you look ahead at the depot system versus curbside recycling, we currently have about a 30% participation rate. That's roughly 5,000 households if you round it off. Now you got to picture that most of those people drive to those recycle bins because they're not within walking distance. So that's about 5,000 vehicles that have to divert their regular course of activities to go to recycle depot, and that costs gas and that costs time. Moving forward, if it were even possible to have 100% participation, which it isn't possible, but by today's numbers, we would have 16,000 vehicles driving around the city to try to get to a recycling depot, and that just is inefficient and it's wasteful. It's a much more efficient system to have a couple of vehicles full-time running around picking up recycling at the curb, and that way you're only paying for fuel out of those two vehicles rather than, you know, the 5,000 vehicles that would happen immediately after this is implemented.
Okay, thanks very much. Was there anybody else that wished to have any discussion or debate on the motion as it stands or as has been amended? Seeing none, then we'll clear the queue and we'll call for the vote on the motion as amended. And that motion carries. Okay, so that was the last item of business on our agenda for tonight. Pardon me? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Thank you very much. Wow, and boy, here I thought we were done with this issue. Okay, so there is an opportunity for a motion to have third reading of the bylaw, and this motion, so Councillor Munro, if you'd care to make that motion. Thanks very much, Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a motion that council give bylaw C1139H, the City Aquaterra utility that we have, sorry. Council have bylaw.
Have, I think it's the have third reading of
Okay.
bylaw C, whatever.
Council
yeah.
have third reading of bylaw C1139H, the City Aquaterra utility bylaw to implement single stream blue bag curbside recycling as amended.
It's fine, and so this is one that gets everybody every time. So to have 3 readings of a bylaw in one council meeting, you need to have this motion. And for this motion to pass and for us to move on to third reading tonight, this would have to carry unanimously. Okay, so we'll call for the vote.
It doesn't say you're supporting the motion.
Okay.
Was there a, was there a, okay, if we'd like to cancel that vote, we can certainly call for the vote again. Okay, we'll start a new vote. Please enter your votes. Thank you. And that motion does carry. And now we can have that motion for third reading. Councillor Monroe.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that council give third reading to bylaw C1139H, the City Aquaterra utility bylaw to implement single stream blue bag curbside recycling as amended to the September 1st, 2011 time.
Okay. Thanks very much. And there's no debate on third reading, so we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. And was there any further business? Okay, I see Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a motion. I move that Council direct administration to bring forward a report and recommendation to the Environment Committee in the spring of 2012 on the amendments that may be required to the City Aquaterra Utility Bylaw C1139 as a result of the current depot collection contract expiring in June 2012.
Okay, thanks very much. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Well, I believe the motion is about as savings where the two systems come together and we can make sure they're brought to the taxpayers. That's what I'm hoping that's about. So,
okay.
Nothing crazy here.
Okay, thanks very much. And so I see that we have some wording of that up on the screen for council members to review, and essentially asking administration to bring forward a report in 2012 about any impacts of the expiry of the depot system contract. So is there any discussion or debate on the motion as worded for council up on the screen? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Okay, was there any other business that I forgot about on our agenda? No? Not at this moment, as Councillor Radburn says. Then we'd move into council member reports, and I saw that there's a report on the Intercity Forum on Social Policy. Councillor Monroe.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. This past Friday, November 26th, I was in Edmonton and attended Family and Community Support Services hosted a dialogue about ending poverty in Alberta was the title of the seminar. As such, we do have our intercity forum on I have to remember these names. Social policy, pardon me. So I did attend it. It was the first meeting that I've attended. I found it quite informative. It's obviously dealing with poverty and coming to realizing that poverty really is a very complex issue in Alberta. It affects so many people, and it's not just limited to people that are unemployed. It affects people that are employed. It affects just so many people. It was good to see all of the groups coming together. We spent some time reviewing other initiatives in other communities and other provinces. For example, Newfoundland has been very strong in supporting the fight on ending poverty. Looking forward to our next meeting is in the new year, where hopefully we can maybe take it up to the next level and figure out a concrete strategy. This was more of a brainstorming session. Once again, I think I learned a lot, and I look forward to actually forming a strategy that we can implement or be part of the implementation in Alberta. Thank you.
Good, thanks very much. Peace Library System, Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm reporting on the board meeting of the Peace Library System actually on Saturday in Grand Prairie. 4 items to highlight for council. First of all, this was the first board meeting of the new term, and we had actually 14 new municipal representatives, which I'm told is less than the turnover in the councils in this area. Apparently it was 43%. This is somewhat less than that. The Village of Donnelly is the Peace Library System's 38th municipal member. We did approve the resource sharing contract extension with the Grand Prairie Public Library to 2011 and 2012. Those figures are $38,000 and $39,900 in those 2 respective years. What happens is that Grand Prairie Public Library staff deal with interlibrary loan requests and finds a library in the region to fill each request. Apparently there are 9 to 13 transactions or questions per day with respect to that. Grand Prairie Public Library staff also keeps reference staff in place to answer questions from residents across the region via the province's Ask a Question online reference service, and 149 questions between January and June of this year. So this is something that our library has the capacity to service. It works well for Peace Library System because that's probably less money than Peace Library could do it themselves. So it's a good partnership that has worked well for a number of years and will be continuing to work well over the next couple of years. And finally, we did pass the 2011 operating and capital budgets for the Peace Library System. Municipal local appropriation remains at $4.50 per capita, so no change there. We did have to dip into operating reserves of about $25,000 to balance the budget without changing that appropriation. So we're pleased that we're able to maintain the $4.50 per capita. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Redburn. And well, I think we had one final report, Councillor Crokin on the Prairie Gallery Board.
Thanks, Mayor Given. It was my first meeting with the Prairie Gallery Board. Chair Grant Burge brought us an update of the construction of the new and the refinished part of the gallery. It is on track and moving on, and I'm sure the city and our Director of Corporate Services was happy to get the check for $810,000 that they were paying back, so it was quite nice that they did that. And the board's very anxious to get it open, of course, for our students and the residents of Grand Prairie, so that it was in construction mode, so more to report after it opens a little more.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. And Councillor Crokin, we'd start the council member roundtable reports with you.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Thank you, Mayor Given. On November the 18th, I attended the Chamber Mixer, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was not many members were there that early, but Helen, you were there. Yes, you were. And it was at the Pizza Hut. Great job, Councillor and owner Justin Monroe. I've never ate pizza that early in the morning, but it tasted pretty good, actually. Keep it quiet over there. On November 22nd, along with Council, I attended the AUMA convention in Edmonton. One very interesting workshop I attended, along with our Director of Public Works, Mr. Frank Descavich, was the state of our water supply and the means of conservation. And in our Herald Tribune, they had a few facts. And like Kermit the Frog said, you know, it's really hard to be green. But just a couple of facts. The average Canadian consumes about 66 liters of bottled water every year, despite the fact that tap water in this country is of very high quality. Bottled water is 300 times more expensive to produce than tap water. Water bottles take more than 600 years to compose. That information given to us by Helen Rice. 17 million barrels of oil are used to produce bottled water every year. The things that they were encouraging people to reduce was having low flow shower heads and sink taps, dual flush toilets like they have in Australia, and rain barrels to do your summer business outside. On November 28th, Youth Council walked in the Santa Claus Parade, and it was terrific. I wouldn't have ran out of candy, but they kept taking them out of my pail. But there were so many little hands there, how could you refuse giving them? We encouraged them to brush their teeth, too. Then today I had the opportunity to listen to our mayor read a 12-page story to the kids at the Kids Play School at Dave Bar Arena, and then attended at 1 o'clock the sod turning for our new fire hall. That was exciting. That's everything, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Croghan. And Councillor Gustafson?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I attended the Festival of Trees at the Tech Center here in Grand Prairie. I attended the sod turning today at City Hall. I also attended a Center for Research and Innovation Advisory Board meeting. Some of the things that were discussed is that the Grand Prairie is Times Square for industry. Grand Prairie has basically what the rest of the world wants. We have our forestry, oil, gas, water, farming, low impact pipelines, lots of business development, lots of innovation. Businesses from Edmonton are seeking the services of CARI, so it's becoming more than just a regional initiative. It's helping the rest of the province. And the clients that are using the Center for Research and Innovation are happy with the process, and it surpasses their expectations. And also I'd like to welcome to the Center for Research and Innovation some new staff members, Chris Lowry and Heather Matheson. And I also attended the AUMA conference in Edmonton last week. I got some information here for our Economic Development Department, an integrated asset management model tool. I think will be very intriguing for our people to look at. And we also got some urban water systems, how to focus on our new management water systems and all our new water things. I was showing it to Jeff there before the meeting, and he was very intrigued. He wanted to take it from me on the spot. So hopefully this will help us move forward in all our water needs in Grand Prairie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gustafson. Councillor Radbourne?
Thank you, Mayor Given. November 18th, I attended the Addictions Week Chili Supper, sponsored by Crime Prevention. Very well attended. And later that evening, I went to Danae's Song, which was a drunk driving presentation. A mom who had lost her daughter due to drunk driving made a very powerful presentation. It was very well attended. We had to add chairs at the Grand Prairie Museum. So congratulations on Crime Prevention for that initiative. November 19th, I attended the Aquaterra shareholders meeting where we reviewed their business plan for next year along with other shareholders. AUMA convention, as others have stated. I did also attend the City Christmas party, and thank you to those who organized the event. It was very, again, well attended and great fun. 28th, Santa Claus Parade. Always the Canada Day Parade and the Christmas Parade are two of my favorite times of being an alderman. It's really really fun to interact with the thousands of people who come to attend the parade. And last night I attended the International Day of Persons with Disabilities Proclamation and Volunteer Awards. So a number of organizations had presented volunteer awards, and we were able to congratulate them and thank them for their efforts, and also recognize the International Day of Persons with Disabilities with a proclamation read by Mayor Given. And I also attended today the third Fire Hall snowbreaking event this afternoon. Pleased to see that project proceeding. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radbourne. And Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you, Mayor Given. On the November 18th, I attended also the Chamber of Commerce breakfast meeting and had warm pizza and orange juice for a change. That was great. We also went through budget that particular day, so our day started at 9 o'clock in the morning and went through till mid-afternoon, and we were very successful on getting a near balanced budget. At 5 o'clock, I went to the Salvation Army for the National Addictions Week, and I only had a half a bowl of chili because shortly after that I attended the Festival of Trees Gala. It's quite interesting that there's 80 people every day going to the Salvation Army for a meal, and that was in the summer months. They're expecting more during the winter. On November 19th, I attended the Special Environmental Committee meeting that we needed to have. And the week of the 21st to the 25th, I was at the AUMA convention. One of our stops was to talk with the RCMP and policing service. I also attended the trade show there and discussed the glass issue, which we seem to have an issue with in Grand Prairie. And I've tried to find some people that would maybe take our glass, and looks promising. On the 29th, which was today, we went to the kids' place at Dave Bar, and it was kind of special for me. My granddaughter was there, and she was like a Klingon. But Mayor Given did an excellent job reading the book upside down, which is a talent in itself, and kept about 40 kids quite happy. And also at 1 o'clock, we attended the sod turning, and it was good to see pretty much all the chamber there, the council there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole, and we'll go to my right, and Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I too attended the Chamber Conference breakfast in the morning. I did not have no pizza. As well, I attended the Christmas parade. I have to say I'm a willing participant to raise the candy budget for Canada Day and Christmas Day parade because we ran out 2/3 through the parade. As well, today for the 3rd Fire Hall, I attended the snow breaking ground the dig to be starting right away. And the biggest thing was the AUMA for the last week that a lot of members went to. I found it meeting everybody from all over Alberta, most importantly Northwest on our issues, and mayors of Hinton, Edson, Fox Creek, Grand Cache, areas that are around our region. And I look forward to further talking to all these individuals.
Thanks very much. And Councillor Wong?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. On Thursday, November 18th, I also attended the Salvation Army Chili Supper and the Dene Song at the GP Museum, both hosted by Community Action on Crime Prevention. On Monday, the 22nd to Thursday, 25th, I was at the AUMA convention with the rest of the council. I found the speeches and discussions from the ministers and keynote speakers very informative, and was very pleased to support a number of advocacy resolutions that will be taken forward to our provincial government. On Saturday, November 27th, I attended the city Christmas party, and on the 28th, I also participated in the Santa Claus parade. I'd have to say that both of those events were very well organized.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Councillor Rice. On Monday, the 29th, this morning, I was also present at the Kids Place Play School at the Dave Bar Community Center, and I was very impressed as well with Mayor Given's ability to read upside down, although I did see him have to flip the book when he read the word costume-orium, which is probably one of the most difficult made-up words to read upside down. And finally, I just wanted to point out last Sunday, November 21st, I was in Rexall Place in Edmonton with 2 other Combative Sports Commission members, and we were shadowing the Edmonton Fight Commission at the King of the Cage event. So since we've accepted an event here on February 12th at the Crystal Center, it was important for us to take on that training opportunity. And there's going to be other training opportunities for the other commission members that weren't able to join us, but it was very useful for us to get out there. I'm currently working on a set of operating procedures and staffing requirements to run an event by our commission, because it is a lot more involved than I thought there was. The Edmonton Commission, for example, has a list of about 20 inspectors that they've hired, and they use 10 at every event, because the inspectors have to watch the fighters get their hands wrapped, and they have to run through a series of questions with the fighters, and that process takes anywhere from about 20 minutes to half an hour per fighter. So, when you have 8 fights on the card, that means you have 16 fighters, it can be a very onerous process. So the city is going to have to start looking at how we're going to meet those requirements, whether it be through volunteer or a paid position. Thank you very much, Mayor Given.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong and Councillor Rice.
Thank you. I wonder if I might refer an issue to the Environment Committee. We're having a real problem with deer, and I know everybody thinks, oh, poor Bambi, but they're becoming really, I believe, a serious problem. You know, they're destroying vegetation. They're in areas that have a lot of traffic, and there have been vehicles that have hit them. They're leaving waste, which I believe is a health hazard, and I wonder if the Environment Committee could maybe initiate some discussions with Fish and Wildlife, whether they cull them, relocate them, do something like that. So if I could refer that to the Environment Committee, I would appreciate it.
Sure, Councillor Rice, let me just have that referred to the appropriate committee, because it may be that Parks might be the more appropriate one.
All right,
but-
to the appropriate committee, that would be great. November 18th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce mixer at Pizza Hut, where Councillor Monroe obviously learned something. He had brought in muffins and fruit in case no one wanted pizza in the morning, and found out that that was wrong. Everyone wanted the pizza. It was a novelty for most people to have hot pizza in the morning as opposed to cold. I attended the AUMA convention. I was extremely pleased that our resolution on urging the government to form an expert panel on energy to discuss the growing discrepancy in supply and demand over there was passed with such a wide majority. Today I attended at the Dave Bar Kids Place to listen to Mayor Given read the book. It was rather interesting story. Santa was going to change his mode of dress, but in the end, everyone, the elves, the reindeer, and particularly the public, urged him to stick with his red suit and to never wear white socks. I attended the snow tossing ceremony at the site of the Third Fall Fire Hall as well. December 12th, I would like to urge everyone to check out the old-fashioned Christmas gathering that is going to take place at the museum. A chance to tour the buildings. There'll be sleigh rides. It'll be a real magical evening at the museum, and get more information by calling the museum, but it'll be a very special evening.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor Monroe.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I attended a number of events in the last couple of weeks here. November 16th, Alberta Employment and Immigration hosted a meeting in regards to the foreign worker program. MLA Teresa Wupa, who is the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Employment and Immigration, was at this meeting, and they're touring throughout the province to different communities to see how they can help assist industry stakeholders and, of course, the local municipalities in streamlining the process or seeing what the needs are for the foreign worker program. So it was quite interesting. Hopefully we hear more about it in the months to come. November 17th, I did a tender opening here for the Coca-Cola Center third level development. Thank you. Of course, the Chamber Mixer, I was there. Festival of Trees Gala on November 18th. It was a great time. Had a lot of fun. And I believe, I'm not sure how much money the foundation raised, but $80,000. So hats off to the QE2 Foundation for that. So, and it was a good event. The AUMA conference, of course, I was there with everyone else here as well too. It found it very informative. There's still a lot for me to learn, but it was a great time for not only learning the processes of what the AUMA does as far as advocating on our behalf, but I thought it was great fellowship and getting to know not only fellow councillors, but of course our directors as well too. And then, let's see here, past that, was that Grey Cup yesterday and froze my butt off. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Monroe. I'm glad to know that your butt is frozen off. I also attended the Chili Supper for National Addictions Week, and it was my pleasure to read the proclamation at the Salvation Army. Also that evening I attended the Festival of Trees and brought greetings on behalf of Council and the City. On Friday the 19th I attended at the Aquaterra Shareholders Business Plan Review, and appreciated the opportunity to have an input and a review of Aquaterra's business plan for the 2011 year well in advance. So this actually comes directly as a result of feedback from City Council. Aquaterra has refined their process so that Council has the opportunity to see the business plan in advance of when it's brought forward to the City Council for any possible rate changes. And so I really appreciate the fact that we have that opportunity to have a dialogue with the other shareholders and the management of Aquaterra early in the process. From the 22nd to the 25th, I was with the rest of the members of Council in Edmonton at the AUMA convention. While there, I had an opportunity with the City Manager to sit down with Mayor Mandel from the City of Edmonton for about an hour in his office and chat about areas of mutual concern and potential for cooperation amongst our municipalities. And just of note, at the AUMA convention, I attended a session on the provincial budget and the capital plan, and was interested to see that the new 3-year capital plan will be released with budget 2011. And so I think our opportunity as a community to be lobbying the provinces between now and spring when the budget is released, and so hopefully we'll be doing some work in that area in the days and months to come. On the 27th, I also attended with other members of Council at the City Christmas Party, and I have to thank the organizers for all their hard work in putting that on. And I also want to thank firefighter Todd Russell, who really went all the way for the United Way. Part of the city's annual United Way campaign is a initiative called Princess for a Day, where some of our male members of administration are willing to put themselves on the auction block to dress up as a princess for a day. And firefighter Todd Russell took that all the way and wore his outfit to the City Christmas Party and actually raised nearly $2,000 for the United Way through that effort. And so hats off to Todd for manning up and attending in his dress. Yeah, it's certainly setting a good example of how the city supports the United Way. On the 28th, I attended the Santa Claus Parade, and later that evening attended and read the proclamation, as mentioned before, at the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And then this morning, actually, I had an opportunity to really gain some insight on group dynamics and how to manage groups when I attended at the Kids Place daycare, and so I really believe that some of those insights that I gained from the professionals there will help me in my work with Council. I also enjoyed the opportunity. You were all wondering where that was going, weren't you? I enjoyed the opportunity to read with the kids, and actually it was my first time to see the services that are offered at the Dave Bar, and the fact that they've taken and renovated a meeting room to be able to expand the space so that they can offer 2 full classes, and the kids obviously enjoy being there, and I think parents enjoy having that service available at a reasonable price. And later in the afternoon, as mentioned, I was at the groundbreaking for the 3rd fire hall. I'm looking forward to seeing that moving on. And one final thing, I want to say thank you to the members of the community and to Council for putting up with me through the month of November, otherwise known as Movember. I've been sporting my Burt Reynolds look for the past month. Well, I think it's a Burt Reynolds look. I think it's a Burt Reynolds look. But it's in support of prostate cancer research and awareness. 1 in 6 Canadian males will face prostate cancer. It's the leading cancer in males in Canada. And so for all those people that were participating, I know Councillor Gustafson has a fine Movember look. And we had a number of firefighters who were competing against other fire departments across the province. And wow. So I didn't know we had a Zoom function on those things. But the Grand Prairie Fire Department really took this as a task, and I'm very proud to say that they've raised over $10,000 just through growing their facial hair. So I'm sure that we can give them a round of applause. So thanks to all those guys out there who grew their facial hair for the month. Thanks to everyone who donated to the cause, and thank you to all of our wives and girlfriends and significant others who put up with us for the month. And with that, our council meeting is finished. Thank you.